Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Owning the Weight podcast with me, Jillian Tedesco, your host. Joining me is my good friend and registered dietitian, Mindy Musselman, also diabetes educator. Big part of your job. Love that you know all about that stuff. And we're going to be talking today about poor diet habits that you're passing along to your kids. And then how to fix them.
Yeah. Thanks for having me again, Jillian.
Yeah, great topic. I think this is going to be very relative to everybody listening, including myself.
It is. It's a sensitive topic, I do feel, but it's an important one I think people have questions about, and you're not really sure what's right, what's wrong, and
just maybe some self-awareness.
It's and every family's different, right? So it's something's not feeling right, you try things different.
So that sounds good. Kids' eating habits mirror their parents. What role does modeling healthy behavior play?
Yeah. And I feel like one of the things that has to happen, and eating habits start so early. We're talking your kids eating food, their habits are starting, young. And by the time you're 4 or 5, a lot of those habits are instilled. So what you see, you've seen how your kids pick up on things you'd maybe rather them not pick up on. Like, oh, dang, I didn't think they were watching that. And sure enough, they were. So they're watching food habits too. So they start really early. I think it's important that whoever the adults are in the house, that they're on the same page of how we're going to approach feeding, how we're going to approach mealtime, nutrition. Let's try to be on the same page and have a general game plan, knowing that life is crazy and the game plan doesn't always go perfect, but just to be on the same page. So, whether that's mom and dad in the house, or maybe it's like mom and grandma in the house, whoever the adults are, let's have a game plan, try to be on the same page. I think we pick up on, I remember one of the habits that I noticed early on when I was a kid, like my mom made like a dinner salad a certain way. And I would go to my friend's house down the street for dinner sometimes, like she was like a second mom. And she made the salad like totally different. And it wasn't up on the counter, it was on the table at dinner. I was like, so weird. Why do you do it that way? And I am still in the habit of making it the way my mom made it. Just because I saw that, it became my way of doing things. That's my habit.
Yeah.
So even things like that, you pick up on, much less the unhealthy habits that maybe we don't want our kids to pick up on. If they see it regularly, if that's what you're modeling, they're going to pick up on it. So you definitely have to say, as the adult, what am I doing? Maybe do I need to work on some of my eating habits and my relationship with food before I pass this along?
Wow. Why would you not want to talk about weight in front of kids, even if it's a positive thing?
Yes. So oftentimes adults will comment, oh, it looks like you've lost weight. Wow, way to go. Or maybe it's not to the person's face, but it's later on and parents are discussing, kids in the back seat. Wow, it looks like, Judy's really put on a lot of weight. And even the tone of my voice saying those things, you notice was so different. So when kids start to hear that, they might start to think this thought, my weight is assessed, is going to be connected to my worth. My worth is based on my weight, which is not true. But if I'm hearing, way to go, you lost weight, or, ooh, she looks like she's really gained some weight. That's like saying, way to go, you got an A, or, ooh, you got a D. Like the same tone usually. And we assess that like as good or bad. So we don't want kids to start thinking that their weight is tied to their worth. This is one of those false beliefs that kids get maybe at a really early age, and it's really hard to change in adulthood.
Oof.
Yeah, I get a lot of people coming to me that have that. Well, when I was a kid, my weight was always an issue in the family, and it was a big deal. And I was a focus because of my weight. It was never a positive focus.
Wow.
And that leads to a lot of difficulties down the road.
Have you ever seen it on the other end of the spectrum where people are maybe too thin?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So somebody also ties their worth to their thinness. Doesn't have to be overweight and worth. It could be, my thinness was my thing. I can't let that go, or I'm not going to be as valuable.
Oh,
like,
wow. Okay.
Whoever it was, was like, oh gosh, you're just so fit and lean and skinny. And then like, oh, okay. Like apparently people think this is like a good thing. They like me because of this. And you get to be an adult. Maybe you're struggling to maintain that same level. Like we change, our bodies change. It happens. That can really, really bring down your self-esteem if you think that so much of your worth is tied to that thinness.
How do you think parents can strike a balance of like being strict with their kids? Because, you don't want to give them all the processed stuff around, but then yet like giving them the freedom. They're kids. If you just give them freedom, they're just going to eat the sugar. So like, how do you recommend, well, I guess the 80-20 with parents? Like, because these are the things that take time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. It's try not to be perfect. It's never going to be. And again, you could do everything, whatever perfect is. You could do everything, quote, perfect, and something still go wrong. Like that could still happen. So we got to just recognize we don't have control over everything. And we certainly don't have control over what other people do. Now you get the benefit of helping, blossom your kids into hopefully productive adults one day. And you get some say in that, but you can't control everything. I think with striking a balance, clean eating, for one, has no true definition. My definition of clean eating is probably different than yours and different than the next person. So when you're saying everything has to be clean, like you're just chasing something that really has no end, you're just going to keep kind of adding on. So I think if you really want your kids to eat like what you define as like clean foods, you got to define that for yourself. Okay, for us, like what we bring into the house, what I consider to be like healthy foods is that we try to get most of our foods from single ingredients, that I buy maybe some organic produce when it's available and affordable. We limit fast food to once a week, like just kind of set some definitions for yourself of what that means and try to stick to it.
You said you share that with the kids?
Yeah, I think you can share that with the kids. Yeah, like this is kind of the philosophy in our house. This is what we do.
We've kind of started talking a little bit about that, but I think it would actually help Jason and I with them
Mm-hmm.
if we were a little bit stronger with those boundaries, because we're a busy family. We eat out. We tend to go to Crazy Bowls, but we go to Five Guys quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The boys love it, and we're like, yeah, this is their way to have their cheeseburger, But otherwise we're eating fit flavors all the time. Jason and I could do it, but I don't want to be feeding them fit flavors all the time.
Yeah,
they're gonna hate me.
You want them to get some different dining experiences too, like to know how to go and behave in a restaurant and not be like, oh my gosh, we don't even know what to do here because it's so rare that our parents take us out because that food isn't, quote, clean.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's important to get those different experiences. They're going to get it at some point, unless you're going to keep them under lock and key for the rest of their life.
And I don't want to do that. So, and I mean, we used to just never go out with them because they were so bad behaved. I mean, you got two little boys, but we went to Mulligan's the other night, and so this was interesting. So we sit down. Vinny orders a burger and fry. I think I ordered the wings. We ordered the wings to start, and then what did I order? It was shrimp and a potato and broccoli and chili. I was hungry. Sal didn't want anything. He's like, I'm not hungry. He was so angry. I'm not eating. I'm not hungry. So we're like, okay, fine. We eat dinner, and then he's like, Vinny, can I have a bite of your burger? And Vinny's like, no. And he's like, just one bite, Vinny. Why are you being so nasty? Why won't you share? And Vinny's like, you could have ordered your own, man. Like, no. Mm-hmm. And then Jason was like, can you just give him one bite? And he's like, no. And it was like, Sal, I think he was just trying to like push buttons and see how far he could go. Mm-hmm. But we sat there and we made him order another burger, and we waited for him. And it was just like,
like, why?
Dealing with all kinds of stuff with the table. Sometimes Sal's on this thing right now where he's like, I'm not hungry. I don't want to eat. And he's really just been like, not wanting to eat food in general.
Yeah. And is it that he's not hungry truly, or is it an opportunity to like be like, hey?
I don't know, Mindy.
Yeah, look at me.
Today he left and he didn't eat breakfast. Mm-hmm. Mom, I am not hungry. I don't want anything. So sometimes I'll just make like a Dave's Killer Bed protein bagel and just give him half of it to get out the door. So I'm at least like, here's 8 grams of protein, and I put butter on it so it's got some fat on it, and I'm
just like buttered bread.
I'm like, at least he'll eat this, and it's got a ton of fiber, so it's not going to digest super quick. But some days he just won't eat, and I'm like, it's a phase. It's a phase. It's got to be a phase.
That's the thing too. If this goes on for months and months and months into years, then it's like, okay, let's get the doctor involved and see what's going on.
Okay,
is this an anxiety thing? Like kids are going to exhibit anxiety in different ways too, or is it just a kid going through a phase? And he's found that this is something that works for whatever he's trying to achieve. He's going to keep doing it as long as he can.
I've heard you talk about like letting kids choose what they want between like apples and oranges or chicken and turkey. How does this approach encourage healthy decision making, but without overwhelming them?
Yeah, so that's something too when it comes to dinner time. Dinner seems to usually be the meal that people fight about the most, kids versus adults. And sometimes it's because like kids don't want to be told what to do or what to eat. And adults want to be the ones telling, and that's the way it should be, right? Like we should be the ones that control, giving them, here's the foods we're going to eat, but it doesn't mean they're not going to fight. So giving them the option, not what do you want to eat, because it's going to be mac and cheese every night, if that's what you say. But hey, we're having, baked chicken strips. Do you want to have orange slices or apple slices with this? They get some choice without it being overwhelming. It's like this or this, easy. So they get a say, and you get to present them with two, equally nutritious options. So I think when you do that, it gives them some say. So they're not feeling like I don't have a choice over what I'm eating. Demanding, like if somebody demands that you eat fish and broccoli every night, that's usually going to lead to a fight. But giving them a choice, even if it's broccoli or green beans, that gives them some say. And even if it's like, they really don't like broccoli or green beans, they're like, fine, broccoli, a small amount on the plate. Like we know it takes a lot of tries sometimes before kids will accept a food, especially vegetables. So a small amount on the plate is also not overwhelming. Probably a better time to try a new food. Like if you're like, hey, I really love bell peppers and I'd love it if my kids would try them too. Maybe try them as a snack instead of dinner. Dinner seems to be the one, like I said, with the most fights. So you don't want to introduce a new fight into that meal if you don't have to.
Interesting. What do you think are some realistic ways families can have more family meals together?
Yeah, that's a tough one. How many sports are the kids in right now? What's going on?
Well, Sal, this is going to sound ridiculous. I promise it's not. We don't have practice. So he's on some pickup indoor leagues right now. He plays on one for the school, one for a select team, and he played on one with some old friends from his baseball team. So he's on 3 different little soccer teams.
Oh my gosh.
Vinny's playing indoor soccer, and they're both doing basketball. Mm-hmm. So we got a lot of teams.
Yeah, when fall transitions to winter sports, it's a lot.
It's actually, believe it or not that overwhelming. Mm-hmm. It's way more overwhelming in the fall with baseball and soccer. Mm-hmm. Because we coach baseball, but this is, and I'm a spectator, a coach. So it's not too bad. Yeah. So like I can leave practice and start a meal, whereas like if I'm at practice coaching, it's different. But we don't have practice for a lot of Sal's teams. It's just pickup games. So we're in a moderate season right now.
Like what you just said, I can start a meal and then go to the game or go to the practice, then come home. Crock pot, great tool to have out.
I don't use mine enough. I need to break it out more.
You got 5 flavors in the fridge. You're good to go.
I know. I'm like, I don't ever really use a crock pot.
But it is a simple way to like even just get your protein cooking. If you put some chicken breast and some salsa in there, and then you get home and pair that with like taco shells and some lettuce, you do an easy dinner that way. So using like the tools that you have at your disposal is helpful. If it's helpful too to have something. So like what I love about Fit Flavors bulk options, the proteins are just so helpful because that is the limiting factor at every dinner time. Okay, I can easily like get this bag of like 90-second rice going. I've got some frozen veggies, or it's, a frozen pizza. It's a protein. Like if I don't have a protein ready to go, I'm going to end up eating junk food, most likely. If you have like the burgers or the herb chicken.
Or the breaded chicken.
Yeah, the breaded chicken is so good that you can pair with something. It just makes that dinner time much less frustrating. I think just kind of rethinking too, like if you are on the go a lot, like could a family meal be you make some chicken wraps, throw them in a cooler in the back of your car that's just always there during sports season, and you have those in the car, like between going from this to this. And you turn down the radio and you have a conversation like you might at the dinner table. It just looks a little different. Mm-hmm. And if you can do a meal at home with everybody and kind of set that as a standard, like when we can, we try to sit at a table and eat our food here, put away the phones. That's a great time to go charge your phone. Just put it away and try to have the conversation, or at least get the kids to not be distracted and the adults so we can be mindful about what we're eating. Like that's a great time to practice mindfulness. Like, how hungry am I? I'm eating this food. How full am I now? We don't do that when we're running around, shoving the food down our throat, barely chewing it. So it's not just a good thing for, the family to know like mealtime is important. It's a good time for everybody to practice mindfulness.
What are some ways families transition away from relying on fast food while maintaining convenience?
Yeah. And so one of my concerns with people relying on fast food a lot is not just like it's less nutritious. It's, a lot of salt, a lot of sugar, blah, blah, blah. It's that, especially for kids, if they get accustomed to the high sugar, high salt taste, it's going to be really hard for them to learn to like the taste of real fruit, real vegetables. Like, it's going to change the way their taste buds accept food. It's just different. Same thing happens for adults, but well, you're the adult. You got some say over if your kids are going to McDonald's. Like, so who's driving there?
How do you fix that if you're say you're feeding them all that fast food, now you want to make a healthy lifestyle change. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think it's probably not going to what some adults want to do, which is we're going to overnight change everything we do and everything we eat, right? To clean out the kitchen, freak everybody out. That's probably not the best approach. A better approach is probably just to do a little bit at a time. Say, maybe set a standard. You know what? We're going to try to eat fast food less. We've been doing that 5 nights a week. We're going to cut it down to 4, 3 if you can. Cut it back a little bit at a time. And then you don't have to go to eating chicken and broccoli those other nights. It doesn't have to be that big of a swing. It could be, okay, we're going to get and make at home some frozen chicken tenders, some, I don't know, whole wheat pasta with marinara, like a semi, chicken Parmesan. Still like tasty. It's not just packed with veggies by any means, but it's getting into that routine of let's make more foods at home. Let's make this a priority. And then gradually, throw that broccoli in with that too.
How do you get kids to try new foods?
It's tough. I know you have strategies that you've done.
I just keep trying. trying.
Like I said, like at least 10 times sometimes for kids to accept a food.
And you just got to be okay with the denial or the when they tell you no. No, it's depressing, and especially when you're throwing the food away.
Oh yeah, that's a tough one. So that's like small amounts. Like if it's a floret of broccoli, a baby carrot, like then you won't feel so bad about throwing away. They could always try that one carrot and go, oh, I do like this. Can I have more? Right? Like music to your ears. Of course you can have more carrots. I'd love to do that. But just start with small amounts. Again, sometimes dinner is the worst time to introduce a new food or try to get them to eat something new. Everybody's tired. That's when the fights are going to start. If you can do, maybe Saturday is a day where you guys make breakfast together, or Sunday. And you can say, oh, you know what? Why couldn't we have like a new fruit with breakfast? If I've really been wanting to get them over to pears because they're in season, they cost a little bit less, instead of like crushing blueberries all day, maybe breakfast would be a good time to try that. Like, and I'll make them into a smiley face.
Do you have any tips for getting kids to like actually prep or pack their lunch or cook dinner or anything like that?
I think if you can gamify anything with kids, that helps. If there's a chart, if there's some kind of star, if there's some kind of system where you can say, all right, if you pack your lunch 5 days a week, you get an extra bonus at the end of the week. That might be, maybe it's an allowance. If you have allowance in the family, maybe it's extra TV time, maybe it's extra like date with mom, something that can gamify it so that they feel like, because they're not going to go, oh, this is great for my health. I'm so excited to make my lunch.
Right.
It's not going to happen at that age. But if they know, oh, I could really get something out of this. And what I don't know is I'm doing something great for myself and I'm learning a skill. How many kids go to college, don't know how to like boil water? I can't hard boil an egg.
I told Vinny we've got a pancake recipe that we came up with for him, and protein pancakes, and he can make them from start to finish, and he does it with mixing the wet and the dry and mixing them together, and then he puts them on the flat top, makes 12 pancakes.
Nice.
Perfectly fit. Yeah. And I go, this is yours. And I go, I'm really proud of you, because when you live in the dorm, well, not the dorm, in a frat house, or you have a home and you're living with the boys, everybody's going to ask you to make pancakes and bacon on the morning, and you're going to know how to cook for them, Vinny. Yeah. I go, you're going to be really cool with your friends if you make them this.
Positive reinforcement, right? Not just like, oh, you didn't make your lunch again? You're supposed to do that. Oh my gosh, you made your lunch. That's great. Like,
what do you, so you said like crock pot. What are, like, give us a couple more tips you'd suggest for busy families that they can do to just have healthy stuff around the house?
Yeah, so you've got to have your go-tos, right? And so whenever I find a new meal that everybody likes, I have a list on my phone, just in the notes, that's just a list of meals that we like, that I can go look at anytime I'm in a pinch. I'm like, what are we going to eat this week? I can just go to that list, and I've already
shared that list with me.
I have, yeah. And it just, I add to it. And so it's like in seasonal order. So like, it's been on there for a couple of years. So I've got like,
that's cool.
Winter, spring, summer, fall, winter, spring, summer, fall.
Does Chris ever just tell you what he wants to eat off the list?
Sometimes,
Is he picky?
No, he's not. He's really not very picky at all.
That's great.
He can cook too. Like, he'll cook if he wants to, but I like to cook, so I usually just go in there and do it. But I think finding those like go-to meals, and sometimes that means you need some healthy conveniences in your life that are staples. So for me, that might be like, if I go to Costco, I like to look for the Amy Lou products. They're just like, they make chicken meatballs, chicken burgers, chicken crumbles. They taste good. Yes, they're pre-made. The ingredients are pretty simple. You pay more for it because it's convenience.
How's the sodium in those?
Higher than somebody who needs a really low sodium restriction. But for the rest of us, fine.
Fine.
Yep. Because you're probably going to pair it with rice or pasta that has no sodium, maybe a sauce that's got some, and some vegetables. So you're still going to balance it out with the other stuff. So I'd like to keep something like that around in the freezer for a busy night. So you can just thaw those out. They're already cooked. You just got to warm them up. Something like, I like the brand Seeds of Change that makes those 90-second rice packets. I don't like to do those every night because you're reheating it in the plastic. And then we get into the whole microplastic discussion, just a whole nother thing. But
couldn't you just put it in a glass bowl?
Yeah, totally.
Press and seal?
Yeah. Sometimes I just put it in the stove, like in a pot on the stove, and cook it that way. It still cooks a lot faster than rice would. So yeah, you can avoid that too. But like those around, having that around, I like to look for vegetables I call like low maintenance. So low maintenance vegetables like a cherry tomato. I just got to wash it. Good to go. Sugar snap peas, wash them, eat them. Something you don't have to peel and chop. So if you kind of just start getting into a routine of having those things around, those staple things, you can put together a meal pretty quickly. The Fit Flavors bulk meals are great for that. Sometimes like a Fit Flavors like a muscle maker, which is like the rice and chicken. You can
turn into so many things.
You can split that up amongst you and another person and put some frozen veggies and maybe like some salsa and make your burrito bowls really quick. So it's a lot of it comes down to people just aren't thinking ahead. They're thinking in the moment. What am I going to eat now?
That's everything.
And you got to get out of the habit of that.
That I think you just nailed it right on the head. So like the just being a little bit more mindful and thoughtful of like the week ahead. And you can do that.
Yeah.
You can do that on Saturday or Sunday, and just kind of have your thought process for the week.
Yeah.
Take a look at where you're going to be at night. Will you have time to prepare? Will you be on the run? How many of each item do you need to have in the cooler that week? Something cool that we've done with Sal this last season, he had one night of the week where he was running from one practice to another. I was actually talking to Nicole Schutte the other day, and she was saying her daughter goes from basketball to gymnastics or gymnastics to basketball like 3 days a week or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And she's like, yeah, we just eat in between. And I'm thinking that's when I take the thermos and I cut up the Fit Flavors meal. I warm it up. I put it in the thermos and then like we'll just eat in the car.
Yep. Keep some apples in there. Like you don't have to even cut them up. Like eat it.
Yeah.
It's an apple. Bananas.
Banana.
Like just throw some things in there and the thing I find is when people don't do that and they're like, oh yeah, we just end up going to fast food again. It just brings their spirit down to where they feel like I can never get over this hump.
You just got it.
Yeah.
You said prepare a little
5
bit
or
more.
10 minutes of thinking about it. Like you guys have the winning week planner on your website, which I love. If you like paper and writing things out, it is a fantastic template. But just taking 5 or 10 minutes to just do that, you're going to just set your week off on such a better note than that feeling of I'm not prepared again. And this is hanging over my head. That's the worst. That's what you want to avoid.
Yeah, the winning week is kind of like it's not tracking your food. It's proactively setting out your week. So it's a little different. It's just you looking at maybe what events or practices you have and filling in where you're going to need to make dinner, find prepared foods, or grab Fit Flavors.
Grab Fit Flavors.
Yeah,
it's a tool.
And then you kind of have your week set, and you're set up for success. You know what you're doing each night, so you don't have to question. You've already have your ducks in a row.
Exactly.
That's great advice, especially for a family. That would be one step people could take to kind of make one change. To just start with that. Yeah. And figure out what night of the week would be best to kind of prep at home.
Yep. Start with that plan. It might not always go perfectly, but if you don't have it to begin with, you're just like out there living in the Wild West. You just don't know what you're going to do. You've got no plan, no direction, and it's really hard to reach any goals without that.
That is true. Yeah. Well, thanks. That was a lot of good stuff. Guys, I hope you enjoy this, got some good stuff. You ever have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or Mindy. Mindy's got a great website. You want to give them your website?
Sure. It's wellmyway.com, and on Instagram, it's bewellmyway.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. This podcast is sponsored by Fit Flavors, your first resource in healthy eating. And I'll catch you next time.